Okay, best handguns of 2017. This is, of course, just an opinion, and you may not agree with it, or you may agree with part of it and not agree with others, and that's great. That's what makes a conversation fun. So just a quick look into the guidelines or my thought process for choosing these particular guns. These are guns that were all introduced in 2017 or just before 2017 started, obviously marketed for the 2017 year. I have reviewed each one of these guns. I've spent range time with each one, some more, some less, but each one of these guns I am personally familiar with, and so I feel qualified to have an opinion. You may think that the video is more about what I don't list than what I do, and you may be asking, well, why is there no Sig Sauer Legion? Why is there no CZ Shadow 2, guns like that? Why is there no STI? I deliberately excluded those guns because I didn't want it to be, the oh sure, the most expensive exotic guns are going to be the best and that's it. So I deliberately said I want it to be blue collar guns. So it's basically a blue collar or black polymer gun. And I think in all cases they're striker fired as well. That was just coincidence, of course, but that is what most people are making now. So of all the new guns that I did have an opportunity to work with this year, and there were many, and they were all great in various ways, these are the ones that I chose to be the best of 2017. I'm going to tell you briefly a little bit about each one and why I think they belong on the list, and I might just, at the end, I don't normally do this, but I may pick a winner. Okay, first up, the Beretta APX. And I'm going to start by saying this gun was the biggest surprise to me this year. When it was available, my good friend dealer at my favorite local gun store contacted me and said, hey, you want a Beretta APX? I've got one if you want one. And I was sort of like, yeah, I guess, sure, why not? I'll take a look at it. Because that's about how excited I was. And I have to tell you, I was very surprised in a positive way, very pleasantly surprised by this gun. Impressed with it in a lot of ways. So here are the specs. It's a 4 1/4 inch barrel. Overall length is just over 7.5 inches. It's 1.32 inches wide, so it is a bit on the wide side. 5.57 inches tall. That's about average and about normal for this type of duty gun sized gun, 5.5 inches. Weighs 28 ounces, so it's a little bit on the heavy side. Suggested retail price is $575, and the Just an Opinion grip index is 3.133 for this pistol, which is actually a nice low number. It's got a short trigger reach and a short grip index. The pros are, starting with, for me, the favorite thing, it's got a really nice trigger. It just has a very good feeling trigger, very crisp and clean. It's got a beautiful break and a nice reset. Has good capacity at 17 rounds. It's a beefy and rugged gun. It feels substantial in your hand. It feels like you've got something here. Has very, very comfortable ergonomics and excellent shootability. It's a very shooty handgun. I love the serrations. These cocking serrations on the slide are sort of a love it or hate it kind of thing. Well, put me in the love it category, not the Lyle love it category, but I do love these sort of off-road knobby tire type slide serrations because they just plain work. They just absolutely work, and I think they work with the aesthetic of the gun. I think it adds to that. I'm a working gun, I'm a blue collar working gun. Throw me in the mud, I don't care. Pick me up, I'm gonna work. It just, to me, that's the statement. made by the aesthetics of the pistol. Has an ambidextrous slide stop slide release, which does function well, and it has a reversible magazine catch. So if you're left-handed, this gun can easily accommodate you. Now for the cons. Starting with the trigger, I said I love the trigger, and I do. It's a very nice trigger, but it is a little on the wide side. It feels, when you first start to shoot this gun, you feel like, wow, that trigger is really wide. So it takes a little bit to get used to the feel of it. And once you do, it feels great. But it is just a kind of a wide-faced trigger. And then secondly is just the overall blockiness. It is a very blocky gun. It's a very thick and fat type of slide. So if you don't mind a wide trigger and a blocky slide, and if you're one of the people that doesn't hate those serrations so bad that it's a deal breaker, I would tell you, you owe it to yourself to take a look at the APX. It might surprise you too. Okay, up next, it was new in 2017, the H&K VP SK. There's a lot of letters and numbers thrown at you. The VP9, of course, is a very popular handgun, and it's a duty size gun. Well, the SK means subcompact. K for compact, because it is a German-made gun, so they spell things funny. This gun literally is the mini-me of the VP9. So if you like the VP9, there's no reason not to like this gun in every other way, unless there's maybe some of the things about the sizing that bother you. But let's run down those specs real quick. The barrel is 3.39 inches. Overall length is 6.61. The width of the gun is 1.31, so it's relatively thick. The height of the gun is 4.57. So just a hair over 4.5 inches. The weight is 23.07 ounces. That's a published number. So 23 ounces of pistol. MSRP is $719 as shown, the one you see here in front of you. If you got the LE version, which basically is night sights, then that is going to run you $819. The Just an Opinion grip index on this pistol is 3.235. All right, so let's start with the pros on the VP9 SK. What do I like about it? Well, as I said, everything you like about the VP9 exists in this gun. And of course, everything you don't like probably also exists in this gun. So, if you like the VP9, you probably will like this one, and vice versa. But it's really the carry-sized package. So it's a shorter gun. It's also shorter in height as well, and that's the most important. But you still get the full grip with this pinky extension on the magazine. Feels very comfortable to me. Your mileage may vary, but I like it. Of course, it does have finger grooves in the front of the grip, as well as that pinky extension, which is very pronounced, and some people don't like the way that feels. It doesn't bother me, but I do know some people don't really like it. And some people have a problem with the paddle magazine release. It is a fantastic trigger. If you know the VP9, it's the same trigger, and it's a good one. I love the ergonomics. I love the little cocking assist tabs that they have on the back. When the VP9 first came out, and before I got my hands on one, I kind of scoffed at that a little bit and said, it's a gimmick. But it's actually, it's a nice gimmick. Very practical, and it works. I like it on the VP9, I like it on the VP40, and I like it on the SK. And one of the other big benefits, ambidextrous everything. Ambidextrous slide stop slide release. It's a little bit on the flimsy side here. Talk about that in a minute. And ambidextrous, of course, magazine release, because it is the European style paddle, which is on both sides of the trigger guard. So right-handers or left-handers, I tend to use my trigger finger. Another benefit of the VP9SK is magazine compatibility. The magazines for this gun are directly and exactly compatible with the P30SK, which is the hammer-fired gun that's about this same size. You may have seen me compare these two. Those mags are essentially identical to these. You can also use your VP9 magazines and your P99 magazines. So there's a great deal of magazine compatibility, which is always a good thing. Okay, the cons are that not everybody likes the paddle magazine release. I talked about it. Some people, that is absolute deal breaker for them, and that's okay. I get that. And, I had mentioned already that this right side of the pistol for left-handed use, slide stop, slide release lever feels a little bit on the flimsy side. And so it's just I'm always worried if I put too much pressure on it, I'm going to break something. So that's a little bit of a negative. And the other one really is price. This is an expensive handgun for the market it's in. So there's a lot of competitors out there in this same double stack 9mm size, a whole lot cheaper. So those are the negatives. The Gen 5 Glock. Now, you knew that was going to be on the list. I mean, it has to. Even if you don't like Glocks, you have to admit a new generation Glock pistol is a significant event in the handgun industry. And the Glock 17 Gen 5, as I told you earlier this year, is quite a nice pistol. I'll say the same thing for the 19. I don't have the 19, but basically consider everything I'm saying about the 17 to apply equally to the Glock 19 Gen 5 as well. Specs on this gun are 4.49-inch barrel. Overall length is 7.95. The width of the gun is 1.34 inches. It's 5.47 inches high, so it's just under 5.5 inches tall, and it weighs 25 ounces. Suggested retail price is about $650 for a new Glock if you go buy it right off the shelf. And the Just an Opinion grip index is 3.386. Alright, so what about the pros? What are the things that I like and I think you probably might like about this gun? Well, for starters, it's a Glock. And I don't mean that to imply that Glocks are wonderful and so you should like it just because it's got that name on it. What I mean by that is it's a Glock, and so it feels like a Glock, looks like a Glock, functions like a Glock, and all of that. Now, it is a Gen 5, so the most noticeable thing on the outside is the lack of the finger grooves. I know a few people like it, most people don't, so most people are happy to have them gone. You have this magazine extraction tab right here that does seem a little excessive. I do know some people that don't like that because it does interfere with their grip. And you have a little bit of a flared magazine well, and most folks think that that's okay, although some people have expressed that it does make the gun a little wider back here where you don't want it wider. But honestly, well, for the 19 I could see it more than the 17. I'm not going to conceal carry this gun. But for a 19, yeah, that's a valid argument. But the other thing that means is it still fits all your holsters and all your other accessories. It still takes the exact same kind of sights, of course. Magazines are compatible backwards and forwards between this generation, Generation 4, Generation 3, and so on. I like the new finish. It is a blacker finish. It's darker. It's not that sort of really dark gray look that they had before. And it does seem to be a more durable finish. So I like it. I think the new finish is promising. This new Glock does have an ambidextrous slide stop, slide release, which does function nicely. And it has a reversible magazine catch, just like the Gen 4s do. So if you are left-handed, now you've got a Glock for you. Now on the cons, well, this gun, I talked about it quite in detail, so I won't go over that again, but the internals of this gun lead me to believe that it may be limited in the pressures that it can handle. So we may only ever see this Gen 5 as it exists here in a 9mm pistol. So it may be the 19 and the 17, and maybe they'll come out with a 34. That may be it. Also, as a related item to that, that also means a lot of your internal parts are not interchangeable between Gen 3, Gen 4, and Gen 5. So Gen 5 dramatically different internally in the parts, and most of your previous parts, if you've got a supply of parts, they're not going to be compatible with the Gen 5. All right, so and I'm going to list this as a con or a negative, but it's not really meant as a negative, just as a sort of an observation or a point of fact, is that despite the fact that it's been thoroughly tested, it's not been field tested. It doesn't have the years of use in the field that previous generations and now even the Gen 4 Glocks have. So while we have every reason to believe that this Glock is every bit as durable and reliable as previous generations, that's yet to be proven in the actual field. Now here's a gun that took a lot of people by surprise, myself included. The Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 Compact. We'd already seen the 2.0. We got a hint first last year, mid last summer, with the 45 Shield. And then we saw the 2.0 released, and we saw all the changes there. Well, seeing it come out in a compact size was very interesting because this isn't something that Smith & Wesson had ever offered before. So this wasn't just the new version of the same old gun. This is literally a new gun. Okay, so when Smith & Wesson made this pistol, they made it to a set of specs that did not exist before in their product line, in their M&P line. It's got a 4-inch barrel. It's a 7.3 overall length. The width of the gun is 1.3 inches. It's 4.92 inches tall, and it weighs 24 ounces. Suggested retail price of this gun is $569, and it has a just an opinion grip index of just 2.717. Okay, so what are the pros of this gun? Fantastic M&P ergonomics. I'm pretty well on record as saying how much I like the ergonomics of the M&P line, and I do quite a bit. And with the new grip texture, I really think that added a whole lot to it. The steel magazine release makes it feel a lot more positive. You know, the grip angle and everything about the M&P line feels really good, and I think it has matured nicely with the M2.0. The improved trigger is good. I like the improved trigger. I know a lot of people still malign it and say, well, it's still squishy and all that. Well, it is a hinged safety design in the trigger, and that is inherently always going to have a little bit of a squish feel to it, but it is definitely improved over previous versions, and I found it quite shootable, and it has a nice positive reset as well. Ambidextrous slide stop, slide release, and reversible magazine catch. So again, if you are left-handed, this might be a gun for you. Talk about that in a minute. Hold that thought. And magazine compatibility. So just like the Glock, just like the VPSK, this gun will take magazines for any M&P 9mm, as long as it's not the shorter ones. Right? But this is a 15-round magazine, and you can use the 17-round magazines all day long. So that's a good thing. Also, compatibility with holsters and accessories. So this gun fits in M&P holsters that I previously had just perfectly and works great. Probably the biggest pro is that it fills a vacancy in the M&P line where they didn't have anything. There's a lot of people that love a handgun this size, and so now they've got one in that line. For the people that are Smith & Wesson M&P fans, I'm sure that really is good news. And it is also very, very shooty. This is certainly one of the shootiest guns that I've ever had the pleasure of testing, and I have a great time shooting this gun. I shoot it well. This is a gun that makes me look good because it makes me shoot it very well. You can't not like that. Cons. What are the cons or the negatives about the M&P 9 M2.0, if any? Well, yeah, there are some, and let me start with this. The right side of the pistol magazine release doesn't really release the slide. Not unless you're a lot stronger than me. I couldn't get it to do it. So I consider that a negative because I would like to be able to, if I was left-handed, I certainly would want that as an optional way to release the slide and charge the pistol on a reload. And as I mentioned, for those of you who are really bothered by it, it is still a hinged trigger, safety design, and so there is still a bit of squish there. Okay, I may have disqualified the Legion, the new P220 Legion, but that doesn't mean you're not going to see a SIG on the table here. The P320 X5 was new for 2017, and boy, does it deserve to be among the top guns of 2017. It's got definitely some interesting specs compared to the other pistols. It's got a 5-inch barrel. Overall length is 8.5 inches. The width is 1.6 inches. And the height is 5.8 inches. The gun weighs 35.5 ounces. And those aren't the only big numbers. Suggested retail price is $1,005 for this pistol. The Just an Opinion grip index is 3.585. So let's talk about what some of those numbers might mean and talk about the pros and cons. Pros. Well, you got to start out with just this balance. The balance of this pistol is incredible between the bull barrel, which is very heavy, you can see there, and the steel weight that they have inside the back strap. And the fact that you've got a 21 round magazine, and when that's loaded, that's heavy. So you've got an incredibly balanced handgun. So the ergonomics are incredible. They are, of course, Sauer ergonomics. It feels different than the regular P320 series, so don't think it's going to feel exactly the same. This one has a more square feel on the front strap especially, and some on the back strap, but it's got that huge beaver tail sticking out there. It gives you a nice high hold, and for a SIG, it's got a relatively respectable bore axis. Gun has an ambidextrous slide stop slide release that does function very nicely, and it has a reversible magazine release. So, left-handers, this gun can easily be yours with one quick modification to the mag button. The trigger on this gun is incredible. It is light and crisp and flat. If you like a flat trigger, if you've never felt the difference with a flat trigger, you should try it. But it is a nice one. It's short and crisp, has a great reset. The adjustable sights with the fiber optic front are excellent. It is a competition-oriented gun, so you've got that blacked out rear. Capacity. You got to call, if you're talking about the pros, you got to talk about capacity. 21 round magazine, and you get 3 of them when you buy the pistol. And it's also a P320 at heart, so it does have the removable chassis system. The actual firearm is this removable chassis that can come out and go into other grip frames. Well, what about cons? There are some downsides to this. I'm going to start with the size, the overall size of the gun. It is a big handgun. You saw that number, or I told you that number for the Just an Opinion grip index, 3.585. It's the biggest on the list by quite a bit. Compatibility with other magazines is a potential issue. I talked about it before, and I know there's been a lot of comments and a lot of things have been, people have said, yeah, you can do this and that, and you can make other magazines compatible, and I'm sure you can to some degree. I know if you take off the sleeve and you change the base plate, because that base plate is really what makes it incompatible because of the shape. The regular P320 has that tombstone shape, and this has the squared off front. They will not interchange. So that's a bit of a problem. You can remove the mag well, so you could potentially make this a legal gun for, say, IDPA, but you really have to do some work. I find that even though the grip index is a big number, I still find it a very comfortable gun to grip and to shoot. And it is expensive. At over $1,000 MSRP, $1,005 to be exact. You're going to find it a little cheaper than that in the gun store, but still, for a $1,000 polymer framed handgun, a lot of people are going to think that might be a little too much to spend. So you've got to decide for yourself if the value is there. I will tell you the quality is there, but you got to decide the value for yourself. Another 2017 gun, which actually I think kind of officially made its debut at the very end of 2016, but didn't really appear on any shelves anywhere until 2017, and some would say it's still hard to find on the shelf. That is the CZ P10C. This, of course, is also a 9mm, as are all the guns we're talking about here. It's got a 4.02 inch barrel. That's the published dimension. Overall length of the gun is 7.3 inches. It's 1.26 inches wide, so it's among the very narrowest of those that we're looking at here. 5.2 inches tall, and it weighs 26 ounces. At $499 suggested retail price, this is, by a significant margin, the least expensive gun that we're looking at on this list, but it is by no means a cheap gun. That is to say, it is not cheaply made in any way at all. The Just an Opinion grip index for this gun is 3.234. Okay, pros for the CZ P10C. Right up top, we got to talk about ergonomics, which are extremely nice, and we have to talk about this trigger, which is equally very nice. Ambidextrous slide stop and ambidextrous magazine release make this a completely out-of-the-box ready left-hand or right-hand pistol, and the slide stop slide release does work nicely on both sides of the pistol. The magazine button, by the way, is one of the better quality magazine releases on a handgun. I really like it. Both of them function extremely well. It's a nice button. It's made out of steel. It's got some great checkering on it, and it just works really well. There is some degree of magazine compatibility between this CZ and other CZs, like the P07. It does fit in a Glock 19 holster or a Glock 17 holster, so there's definitely a lot of benefit in that. So basically, in a nutshell, I would say it's a very, very good trigger, very good ergonomics. It is an incredibly shooty gun. It's a whole lot of fun to shoot. I shoot it very well. It's one of those guns that'll make you look good. It really helps you to shoot it well, and incredible price. Okay, so some of the cons of this gun are that, from what I see around the industry, around YouTube and other reviewers and things like that, or there seems to be some inconsistency with the trigger weight, because I reported a particular trigger weight that I measured with my gauge, and a lot of other people chimed in right away and said, no, mine's way lighter than that, and then some other people said, no, mine's about that heavy too. So either our gauges all need to be calibrated, which is possible, or these triggers are a little inconsistent. However, this trigger is not extremely light in terms of actual pull weight, but it is very clean and very crisp, and it feels great. And probably the only other real con that I can think of, the only other downside to this gun, is that right now I think it is still a little bit difficult to obtain. So you may have a hard time finding it on the shelf at the local gun store, and if you have a dealer that you order from, he may have a hard time getting it. Other than that, there's not a whole lot of bad things to say about it. CZ P10C is a very nice gun, and definitely one of the best for 2017, and probably going to be one of the best for years to come. So I do a lot of videos where I compare guns, or maybe I'll do a list of guns, and people sometimes criticize that I don't really pick a winner. And it's usually not about picking a winner for me. It's not about a comparison in which, it's not a bracket where somebody has to come out at the end being the best. But I don't want to shy away from that. And so in this case, maybe I could pick a winner. So out of the 6 guns that I just showed you, which one do I think is the absolute best, or perhaps maybe the most significant or most important gun released in 2017? So I'm going to tell you that. But first, I'm going to tell you that you should go check out the folks at Patriot Patch Company, because they have been so wonderful to me and my channel and work with me as a partner, that they are fantastic. There's a link below this video, and there's a discount code that you can use, and you can get save money on your order and all of that good stuff. And if you buy a Just an Opinion patch, just like this one you see right here, 100% of those proceeds go to put service dogs with veterans. That's my guarantee to you. That's where that money goes. And so you're doing a good thing. Now, so much for the commercial. So back to it. Which of these 6 guns do I think was the most important or most significant, or maybe if we want to just call it the most bestest of all? I would have to say it's this one. The M&P 2.0 Compact. And I'll tell you why. All the things I said about it in terms of the pros for the gun, obviously those still hold. I think it is an absolutely fantastic gun. Ergonomically, it is so shooty, and I shoot it really well. And if I shoot it really well, it's because the gun helps me to shoot as well as I can. But most importantly, I think this is a super important gun for Smith & Wesson. This is Smith & Wesson throwing their hat into a demographic they didn't really have a gun in before. And that, again, is that Glock 19 size. I'm going to call it what it is. But they had the M&P 9C before, which was sort of the short, fat, double-stack compact, but there was nothing between that and the full size. And now we have this slimmer 15-round, extremely good 2.0 handgun from Smith & Wesson that fills, I think, an incredibly important void in the market. And I'm sure it's already selling like hotcakes, and I think it will for years to come. So this is my pick for the best gun of 2017 in the handgun world.